So yeah, I've started the recording. For people who don't know who you are, can you give a little bit of introduction?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kai Lun Qu.
Right,
I'm a I'm a full-time instructor and painter based
right,
in Silicon Valley in California. Been
right.
painting for 7 years and been drawing for it's like been over 10 years now. Um, and yeah,
How old are you right now?
I'm 26.
Right. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right, right. So you have been like into art seriously since like you were my age because I'm 16 right now.
hmm
Oh wow.
Um, I actually started a little earlier.
Right,
So I got started when I was 14 years old.
right, right.
And then yeah, I got sent to China actually to study at like the art academy high
Oh wow.
schools there by my parents.
Right, right,
And then I was there for like a year and a half. So from 14 to like maybe almost 16, I was
right,
learning just kind of like drawing techniques. Um,
right,
China, they had like a relationship. They had like a long relationship with like the Soviet Union and Russia back
right,
then. And that's kind of how they taught their art curriculums. It's based off of the Russian academic techniques from like the 19th
right,
century. So that's kind of like what they taught me.
right.
And yeah, so that's when I kind of got
So how
started.
was your experience living in China and like studying there for almost
Ooh.
2 years, I guess?
mhm. Yeah, almost 2 years, like a year and a half.
Right,
It was very interesting. I loved and also hated my time there because it was such a huge culture shock.
right,
Because I mean, I grew up in California, so I was a little bit spoiled, compared to some of my fellow classmates there, right? So it was a
right,
huge culture shock and rude awakening when I finally ventured there, and just the way that they did things, how hardworking you kind of have to be to just kind of push alongside everybody. There was of course the language barrier at the beginning too,
right. That makes sense.
but it was great. It was like I learned a lot, honestly, not just from teachers, but also like all my classmates there. They've been training since they were like 5 years old. So
Oh
they
wow.
weren't they weren't making work that looked like they were done by 14-year-olds. They were making work that looked like they were like cast drawings and sculptor drawings, and like like they were doing like portrait drawing, figure painting, figure
Right,
drawing, and it was crazy because I mean even now, like I mean you know my work now, right? Even now
right,
I feel like my drawing probably it could probably be matched to some of those people, but there were people that even to this day, comparing to myself now, I think they're still better than me, and those were like 15, 16-year-old kids in terms of
oh wow.
technical ability. Yeah, it's crazy, they work
Yeah,
really
it
hard.
is
So
crazy. I mean, you
mhm.
are pretty much one of the best fine artists I know. So
No, thank you.
yeah, that seems crazy. So like, uh, what was your like day-to-day life like in China?
Day-to-day life, it was every day wake up at like 4:30 in the morning
Oh
and get to
wow.
school. Yeah, get to school at 5, and then the classes
Okay,
started like
wow.
5:30. From 5:30 to like 12, it was like normal classes. But
Right,
even for the normal classes, you had to like they were really strict. So you had to like sit straight, listen to the teacher, and then like, and I remember it was like super, everyone was like, kind of stressed out because it's like the stuff that they were learning too is it was like super advanced compared to
right,
like what they would probably learn in America, right?
right,
um and then from like 12 to 12:30 it was like lunchtime. They gave like 30 minutes lunch, and then from 12:30 all the way till like 10 p.m. it was like art studio hours. So
wow.
even for that, it wasn't like you go to the studio, you do whatever you want. No, they like the teachers will set up like a cast drawing and be like, okay, today you guys are going to be focused on studying from this cast sculpture, or today we're going to have a portrait model.
Right.
And I remember the first day I was there, I didn't have foundational training. So like I remember when I first went there, um, the first day I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to draw. And then everyone, as soon as they sat down, whoa, it was like military. Like everyone started holding their pencils like back straight, like that. They started like blocking
Oh
out the
wow.
form. Yeah, and I was like just sitting there like I don't
That
even
must have
know
been
how
like
to.
really uncomfortable.
It was, yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy. It was even more uncomfortable because people knew I was from America, so I think they were expecting me to be some kind of like secret master or something. So they were like
Right.
what they were like secretly trying to watch me study like they were saying like Americans classical technique, and I was like, I have zero technique. And they're like, oh sure, you're being modest. And they will like watch me try to draw like a literal stick figure. Like I did
Right.
not know how to like draw like what I was doing. Like I was drawing literal stick figures, and they were
Right.
like, oh, is this like modernist art? Like what's happening? I was like, yeah,
Oof.
I guess. But
Oof.
yeah, so that's kind of like, what life was like. And it was like 6 days a week. So Saturdays they didn't
Oh
have off.
wow.
Yeah, they only have Sunday off. Summer too. Summer you didn't get a break. Summer was pretty short, but summer for me, I didn't catch a break. Like my dad signed me up to like this art studio, and it was 7 days a week from morning to night. And you lived in the studio, like you slept, and they have bunk beds for you in the studio. So you
Wow.
wake up, go into the studio, you set up, draw from cast sculpture or draw from a model. Get critiqued, and teacher yells at you because your form is off or your anatomy's off. And,
Right.
and then you repeat every day, 7 days a week until summer was over.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So that makes me want to ask the question: is your father an artist as well?
Yeah, he is. He's an art professor in China, actually. He's
Oh right.
a art professor in China. He's also a professional fine artist there. So he does like museum shows, and
Oh damn. Nice.
he does like internet. Like, yeah, he had a couple shows in Asia and Europe.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I can understand why he sent you to China to study there. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of my teachers were his students, actually.
Oh right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he told me not to tell them. He was like, I don't want them to give you special treatment, so just don't tell them that you're my son. I'm like, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That must have been like a life-changing experience.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think it not only taught me art, also taught me discipline, also taught me like just how to like handle myself as a person,
Right.
right? Independently. So I think that's why when I moved back here, even when I went to college, right, a lot of my friends
Yeah.
like they were freaking out. They're like, oh, I don't know how to be by myself. I was like, I've been by myself, like,
Right.
ever
That
since I
makes
was
sense.
14. Like
Yeah.
I was living in the school dormitories, right? Like I didn't get to go home. And
Right.
you had to like, for clothes, they had like no washing machines either. Like you had to wash it in a bucket, and you had to hang your
Oh
clothes
wow.
outside the window. It was like that, man. Yeah, it was it was crazy. But so I
Oof.
went from like a pampered life in California straight up like just transitioned overnight to that. And it
Oh
was
wow.
just
Yeah.
but then yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be real with
That
you. I
must
would
have been
not give
hard.
it up. No, no, yeah. I mean, it was hard, but I definitely would not replace that experience. I feel like
Right.
that
Right. Yeah.
experience definitely shaped me, right? So
Yeah.
um
Definitely.
yeah.
Right. So, what are your some of so, so like what are some of your secrets for staying productive?
Productive. I mean, a lot of things, honestly, sometimes the hardest thing isn't like the act of painting or drawing or the act of doing
Right.
anything. The hardest process or the hardest aspect of things is just getting yourself in the studio or just getting to work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I just try to hype myself up before any time, before like painting. Like I try to see if I can already picture it in my mind's eye.
Right.
Um,
That makes sense.
and yeah, I mean, if I do need to pick me up, I would either, you know, I would, go online, look up the artists that I respect or admire,
Right.
particular people like, like Richard Schmidt, like those group of artists.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Uh, and if nothing works, I just go to the museums and I just study the works of the old masters there and try to see
Right.
if I can get some inspiration like that too. But I mean, I think the key is just to stay inspired,
Right.
stay
That makes
excited.
sense.
I think I remember this one time, Gordon Ramsay, like the chef. He's
Yeah.
the
Of course.
the chef that like yells at everyone. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
remember
I
he
know.
one time he one time said that he never eats until he's full. He's always keeping himself a little hungry. That way,
Right.
food it will always taste a little more accurate or better, right?
Oh
If he's
wow.
full, then like the food's not going to taste good. Even if it's
Right.
good,
Right.
it's not going to taste good because you're full, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I, I
Yeah.
I like to think about doing art the same way, right? You never want to like feel completely satisfied, but
Right.
and always trying to itch to do more, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So yeah,
Yeah.
the mind's a powerful thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I don't think you can ever achieve satisfaction in art. You like, there's always room for improvement.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much till the day you die, there's like always room for improvement.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, what's your day-to-day routine nowadays?
My day-to-day routine, it really depends. I mean, because I'm a self-employed artist, or I'm a,
Right.
like I don't really work for anybody. I work for
Yeah.
myself.
Right. Yeah. That makes
So
sense.
I kind of set my schedule up for myself. Like I really, like, my girlfriend always says this. Like I usually don't work hard. I try to work smart as much as I can because I'm
Right.
kind of lazy, honestly. Um, like I should be working harder, but I don't. I tell all my students to work hard, but I don't follow my own advice.
Hey man,
um,
you're great at it. You're great at art
uh,
anyway. So like,
thank you. But I mean, for me, honestly, like I'm a night owl, so I usually would like push work towards like late afternoon to nighttime, right? And
right.
then like I have a really bad sleep schedule. Like I would push it to nighttime, so then I would be painting all the way until like 2 to 3 in the morning,
Right.
because I don't like waking up in the morning. So I usually will sleep until
Right.
like
That makes sense.
12, and then I wake up at like 12, get
Right.
lunch, and then after that, I probably, yeah. And then there are times where like I don't feel like drawing or painting, and I don't need to teach, so you know sometimes, like, I have a hobby too. My hobby is dancing, right? So
Dancing.
I
Yeah.
would go
Right.
to like I would go to like dance sessions, sometimes
Yeah.
at night.
You're great at that. I've seen your
Oh,
Instagram.
thank you.
Yeah. You're great at that.
Thank you.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
long have you
that's
been
yeah.
practicing for?
Dancing, not, I mean, I've been just trying to do it myself and teaching myself,
Right.
since I was like, I think it started like 14 too, like around high school as well.
Oh, right.
This is around when I was in China. Yeah, I made friends with some street dancers there, and they taught
Oh,
me a few
wow.
things. And I was inspired by people like Michael Jackson. I was like trying to learn moves like that. It
Right.
was only recently I started seeking out tutelage and seeking out, mentorships, and classes, because I'm living in like near San Jose, California. That's one of the birthplace of the style of dance that I do, which is called popping. So a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of like the OGs, a lot of like the creators or the pioneers live here. So I've been
Right.
trying to
Right.
seek them out and study with them, and I like it too because with art, it's kind of hard for me to. I mean, I still try to be a student, but in reality, most of the time I'm teaching, or most of the time, like I go to like sessions, like I'm usually the one giving advice, right? I'm usually the one
Right. Right.
helping out other people. So I kind of miss being in that student position, like pure
Right.
student
That makes
position,
sense. Yeah.
right? So so I kind of enjoy just being a student in the room again, instead of just
Right.
like
That makes
someone
sense.
who's
Yeah.
constantly teaching, when I'm doing painting
Teaching
and
advice.
drawing.
Yeah. Right.
hmm So I like that. It's a good
Yeah.
change of pace. Yeah.
So you have a school, right? It's called Kai Lun Q Studios.
I mean, more or less loosely, like a kind of, I wouldn't call it a school. I just call it a collection of students that I
Right.
accumulated over the years. I used to have a program here that had a physical building and a physical location, but then I disbanded from them.
Also,
And then these are the students who just,
now
these are
it's
the students
online.
who now, no, they just come to my studio. Like they
Oh,
just come to
right.
my
Right.
studio. I do have online students, so it's like half half. So half
Right. Right.
people come to my studio, half people online. And these are just like some of the people that just stuck with me. And yeah,
Right. So you went to a college for art, right?
I did. Yeah.
So like, how was your experience in that?
Ooh. Um, I don't want to say too much because I don't know who's
Yeah,
going to
that
listen to
makes
this.
sense.
It could have been better.
Right.
Definitely could have been better. The issue now with a lot of art schools, I didn't know about this. That's also the reason why I'm teaching now, so that I can
Right.
better tell people what to expect. Um, make better choices. Because for me, I wanted to learn how to paint. I want to learn how to draw. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, most art schools nowadays, they don't really focus on that.
Right.
They have other focuses in other areas. But I wasn't able to kind of get what I was looking for. So yeah, but I mean, hey, it taught me how to be resourceful because
Right.
I kind of had to like teach myself like painting. I'm a lot of like I would say 95% self-taught. 5% I got like, a few free workshops here and there from like
Right. Right.
people, that I admire, but mainly I had to kind of like figure it out myself. Read books, go to museums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh there was like not no teachers or classes I can really refer to.
Right.
Um,
That makes sense.
mhm. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I pretty much asked this question because like I'm graduating from high school next year, so I've been kind of
Mhm.
thinking if I should go to a college for art or I should like study on my own through like online courses and stuff. I
I
think
mean, I would say maybe somewhere in the middle because here's the thing, like I feel like I've been talking about this with a lot of people actually.
right,
I don't think a school can truly teach you how to be an artist. Art,
right,
I
that makes
believe, is
sense.
like it's like self-expression, right?
Yeah,
Like how
exactly.
can someone teach you how to express yourself better
Yeah,
than
exactly.
you, right? I think
I
the
think someone
most
can only teach you the fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I think the most a school can really do is teach you the tools, how to better
Yeah,
use
that
the
makes
tools, aka technical fundamentals. And that is something, sadly, 95% of all art schools nowadays don't teach anymore. They try to
right. Yeah,
focus more on the art side and not the technical side. And because of
right,
that, there's not a lot of backbone within the art side because you're not getting the technical foundational knowledge, right?
right. That makes
So
sense.
I usually would recommend, I mean, unless that's something you're into, you don't want to chase after like technical representational drawing and painting, like you're more into the abstract, then sure, by all means, go to art school. But I feel like if you really truly want to learn how to draw and paint, and this is a little better than just studying yourself because studying yourself, like I'm be real with you, like a lot of my students, I tell them, you guys are all going to be way better than me by the time you're my age because the things that took me years to figure out, and keep in mind, I have like some backbone within my foundations because I studied drawing in China. But even then,
Right,
it took me so long to figure the things that it takes my students now, like literal months to weeks to figure out,
right.
just
That makes
because
sense.
I'm telling them, oh, careful of these, you're going to trip over these, they'll know what to look for, and thus they'll accomplish and be able to overcome it a lot more better and faster and more efficiently. Efficient is the
Right,
key word. So I feel like, you know, and this goes for anyone who's listening to this, if you want to learn how to have the tools, technical tools available to you to create visual arts, drawing, painting, or even sculpting, right? I
yeah,
recommend instead of going to an art school, go to an atelier, right?
right. That makes
Um,
sense.
Not a lot of people know what ateliers are because they're not mainstream. Many people
Yeah, yeah.
they're like trade schools and they don't give you degrees, but they will teach you for a fraction of the price of
Right,
art
that
school.
makes
They
sense.
will
Yeah,
teach you the skills, and I believe they're a better investment. But you also want to be careful too. They also have their shortcomings um, with art schools. There's like no backbone. There's no structural integrity in it. So then
right.
it's like
Yeah,
it's too loose, it's too free. Where in Atelier, it's all about that foundation training. So sometimes it could be a little too strict, right?
right,
You don't want to box yourself in too. So you kind of, get that education, get your skills to a certain level, and
right,
then break free from that. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to get stuck on either or. You can either be stuck in the atelier side where you're not willing to explore and expand and transcend the skills they teach you. You're still making like student works that they ask you to do because you're like, you're like, well, this is what they taught me. Or
right,
you're in a side where you're in art school where you're too used to people like them telling you do whatever you want. And you're doing just whatever, but then like there's no actual technical backbone to it. So I
right.
think
That makes
a
sense.
little bit of you want to meet a little bit both, but at least for people starting out, technique will definitely guide you and take you a longer way than just, ideas, at least at the beginning, because you're going to need the techniques to flush the ideas out. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So in terms of like a logistical standpoint, I recommend going to ateliers first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have one in India. You recommended it to me, Samsara.
Samsara. Yeah.
Yeah,
Samsara.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the founder there, I forgot his name, but he graduated. I think he went to the Florence Academy of Art, which is one
Oh,
of the
wow.
top art ateliers. It was actually the first atelier to be resurrected, to be resurfaced in the 80s, actually, or I think,
Oh,
or
wow.
was it the 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around that
Yeah.
time. And to give you an idea, the founder is actually a graduate from my college, and my
Oh,
college
right.
does not know who he is, nor do they care. So it kind of shows
Okay.
you where their priorities are at, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not even know that ateliers even existed in India until you told me.
No, yeah, not a lot of people do. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, and they're so cheap compared to,
Yeah, exactly.
like art schools, and like, and they teach you so much. If you compare works done by students there compared to like works done by students in art schools, it's like it's just
Yeah,
such a
it's way cheaper.
drastic difference. It's
Yeah,
such a drastic difference,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't think there are any good art colleges in my country. Most of them just, yeah, as you said, they don't focus on the technical stuff. They only just do the stuff. So yeah, I've been considering going to Samsara.
Yeah, go for it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be. I mean, I don't know much about it, but I mean, judging by looking at the works, it's
Yeah.
it seems like they'll teach you
the
at least a good
works are
building block.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Definitely.
seen it. Yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like from which age did you start selling your works?
Let me think. I think I sold my first drawing.
Right.
It was actually pretty early. I sold my first drawing ever. I think when I was like 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 15. Because something that I did actually in China, this is a way for us to make money, was during Sundays, I would actually go out and draw people with
Right.
a few of my classmates, and we'd like, like it's like quick sketches. A, it's the, practice. B, it was to make a
Right.
little extra cash. Like we were charging like $5 per portrait, right?
Right.
And yeah, so we were doing stuff like that. And I remember somebody actually did buy one of my pieces. I just sold it for like 100. It was like barely anything, but I was like 15, so
Right.
100 to
Yeah.
me seemed like a lot of money. And yeah, I think like my first serious sale was actually, I believe, my freshman year, first year of college. I was doing this painting of one of my classmates actually, and I had her sit for me, and I was
Right.
doing it, and like I posted like the work in progress on Instagram, and I believe it was her aunt who saw, and her aunt's like, "Oh my God, this is great. Can I buy it?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then I asked around like, "What's a good price to price this at?" And they're like, "Oh, I asked a few of my friends who were already making a living from it. I
Right.
didn't want to ask other classmates because they'll be like, oh, $50, right? But
Right. Yeah.
my friends told me, oh, for that at that size, at your level, probably like 1,000. I'm like, okay, that's crazy. They're never gonna pay for that. But I told them, okay, 1,000. I was expecting them to complete like, oh, that's too much, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, oh,
Huh.
what? And then they bought it. That was like my first sale, and it was like $1,000. I was like, wow. Huh. I was like, oh,
Wow.
I guess people do have money to throw around for stuff like this.
Right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
It was my first painting
Yeah, I
though,
mean,
so I
art
was
is a luxury, so I don't think people act like a cheapskate when buying art. I mean, that's not
yeah.
always constant.
Yeah, but it was good. So that was the first time I sold my work. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So like, how is your experience being a fine artist? Uh, is it just considerably harder than being something like a concept artist or an illustrator?
I think I mean, for me, I don't like listening to what people tell me what to
Right.
do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I actually thought about being a concept artist back when I was in college. One of
Right.
my good friends, his name is Q, Q Fang. He is actually he's a concept artist. He's a character designer for
Right.
Blizzard's
Right.
Overwatch, actually. So he was telling me, I think he's like a senior character designer now. He's like pretty big right there.
Right.
But I was asking him about it because we went to the same studio back when we were in high school, and I was like,
Right.
hey, I think you may be doing what you're doing or doing like something similar to what you're doing. It's like, do you have any
Yeah.
advice? And he basically like he looked at my work and he's like, why? Why do you want to do what I do? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're good at doing what you're doing, like oil painting, stick to that. He's like, not a lot of people our age are doing that.
Right.
The
Yeah.
market to concept art is so overly saturated.
Yeah.
So
Concept
it's
art is
like
like very overly saturated nowadays.
very oversat, yeah. Or at least, a lot of people want to do it. A lot of people my age, they're just going
Yeah.
straight
Pretty
for
much.
digital. No one
Yeah.
has like a freaking wooden, like no 20-year-old, no high schooler has like a freaking wooden box full of oil paintings ready to go in their room every time they want to
Right.
sketch
Yeah.
something or draw something, right? It's so he was like, yeah, like rep that tradition because it I wouldn't say it's a dying art, but it's definitely something that a lot of people aren't really focused on anymore. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was thinking, yeah, so I did try concept art, and I realized I didn't like drawing on a computer. So
Right. Yeah.
I missed the smell of oil paints.
Yeah. That makes
So
sense. I mean, in
yeah.
fine art, like
Mhm.
you can express yourself way more than like in something like
Mhm.
concept art or
I think
illustration.
yeah, I think in fine arts the only thing is you have to not just you can't just be an artist. A lot of people I don't think they could be like fine artists, not because their work isn't good, but because
Right.
you have to wear many hats. It's not about just making a pretty painting and calling it a day, right? You need to know how to sell yourself, marketing yourself. You have to know how to like, make connections, networking. You have to know how to manage everything, right? Manage your website, manage your social media, like, make yourself known, give yourself a name, like build your because the moment like when you're a fine artist, you yourself are the
Right.
brand that you're trying to sell. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That makes sense.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people like, especially fine artists, the issue that I notice some people have is they're not willing to put themselves out there, or they don't know how to put themselves out there. I
Right.
think that's actually like I was talking to you earlier, or I think I mentioned before, I'm, I'm partner with Sentient Academy as a
Yeah.
mentor
Right.
for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and they have like a business course for artists that they offer, which I think is really
Right.
cool. Teaches you how to market yourself, sell yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of fine artists don't do. And that's why it's like infinitely harder for them to like make a living from this. I guess
Right.
I'm pretty lucky just because when I was growing up, my mom, she was like a business CEO. So
Right.
when I was like young, she would talk to me about like these, business strategies. Even when I was like in elementary school, like she's driving me to school and she would just talk to me about like, oh, how do I get this client? How do I, do, like she wouldn't talk to me about normal stuff that you talk to kids. Like she talked to me about
Right.
stuff like
That makes
that.
sense.
So I grew up around that. So I think that's why I was able to understand how to carry myself out a little better.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how has your experience uh, being a fine artist has been so far?
It's been good. I mean, it's the only thing I've been doing since day one. I haven't
Right.
really done anything else. Never really had a normal job.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
So
think you have needed to have a normal job because you have been like making money off of art since like very young.
something funny actually, when I was in college, this is freshman year, I thought I needed to get a job because all my friends were getting jobs then,
Right.
right? So I was like, okay, maybe I'll teach, right? Because I didn't really know how to do it, but I'll try it out.
Right.
Um, like those paint and sip places where you go and like they'll give you like, you paint and you just follow the instructor. They'll paint like little pretty flower. You like
Right.
sip
Yeah.
your wine and then yeah. So I applied to one of those places. I was like, oh, I bet they can hire me. I feel like my paintings are good enough. I
Right.
think they'll be able to hire me. They called me not to hire me, but to reject me. They're like, listen, we're
Okay.
gonna reject you not because you're not good, but because we think you're too overqualified. Like we will feel bad
Oh wow.
if we hire you because we feel like you can take your talent somewhere and use it a little bit more efficiently. So they actually gave me a lecture on what I should do, what I'm really thankful for them for. Like they were like,
Oh wow.
instead of they're like, you don't need to do this. Like they're like, just you should go offer some like workshops or master classes or stuff, like teach actual professional, like, oil painting or drawing techniques. I'm like,
Right, that makes sense.
I was like, I don't know if I could do that. But then like I tried it out and I was like, okay. I held my first workshop and it was good. It was weird because all the students were like, way
Right.
older than me, but it was good.
So
Yeah.
since when have you been teaching art?
Hmm?
So since when have you been teaching art?
I started when I was 19, I
Oh
believe.
wow, pretty young.
19. That was my first oil painting workshop. Yeah,
Oh
it
wow.
was it was actually pretty funny. I had a pretty funny story about that because I remember um because my students, they weren't like, some of them were beginners, but some of them, they've been painting professionally for like decades, longer than I've been alive. Some of them are
Wow.
gallery painters, some of them are like instructors too. I had one student who was like a college professor who was teaching art, who
Oh
came
wow.
class. They didn't show my face. They showed my paintings. So they didn't know what I looked like, nor did they know my age. So I
Right.
remember I was in the classroom just setting up day one, and then they started trickling in. And,
Right.
I would shake their hand saying, welcome to the class. And I guess they thought it didn't help that I was dressed kind of like just casually, right? I didn't think about
Right.
it. I was just dressed kind of like how I would dress when I go dancing or something. So then like they were so then when the class was about to start, one of them came up to me and was like, "Oh, when's the teacher gonna come? Like you're the assistant, right?" And I'm just like, um, I am the teacher. They were like, they actually looked like, they were like, wait, are we getting scammed? Like, what is this? You're like a little kid. And I was just like, I it, it'll be okay, I promise. And then like, they were really skeptical at first.
Right.
And but then I did my demonstration, and it was actually really funny because after my demonstration, those students that I guess were skeptical of me,
Right.
they actually became some of my most loyal students that kept
Oh
coming
wow.
back to my classes. It was cool. And
Yeah.
then after that, for like the next 2 years, I got inspired by one of my teachers, Timothy Reese,
Right.
um, because when I saw him for the first time, he was wearing like a suit when he's like painting, when he's teaching, like a full-on three-piece suit, and I was like, wow,
Oh
that
wow.
looks so cool. So he was pretty young too, so that's why he was like, I have to wear the suit so I look more professional, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
So I started doing that for the first 2 years too, from like all the way until like I was like 22. I was just like wearing a suit to all my workshops, teaching painting in a suit, trying to get it not dirty, or going to events and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. So how has your experience being an art teacher so far?
it's good. I really like it. I actually highly recommend, once you gain a certain level of skill, a
Right.
certain structural balance, structural foundation, I highly recommend teaching. It really, I feel like it forces you to dissect yourself before
Right.
you help others, because like when you're painting by yourself, you can make a bunch of mistakes, or you can make a bunch of choices and you don't have to worry about why you're making those choices per se.
Right. That makes sense.
But when you're teaching, you're gonna have to like prepare to answer a questions like, oh, like someone will ask you, why did you make that color, why did you make that stroke? You need to be prepared to not only answer them, and you can't just say like, because I felt like it. You have to give them a logistical explanation on why
Right.
that
Yeah.
stroke goes here, why are you mixing this color, how did you mix this color, why did you decide to use red and like this amount of red, this amount of blue, why did you decide, it gets really logistical. And when I'm teaching, it actually forces me to use two sides of my brain too,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I'm painting, but I'm also talking at the same time. You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Definitely.
think it just really helps discipline you and forces you to exceed and transcend above what you already could do as an artist, and it forces you to look deeper into yourself. And
Right.
like I learned so much just by teaching. It's crazy. Like I learned more from teaching than I did ever attending any workshops, because
Right.
I'm just like constantly discovering things that, oh, like I would be explaining something and then I would have an aha moment. I'll be like, oh wow, this actually makes a lot more sense. Like the more I try to explain it, the more I like, materialize it in my
Yeah.
brain, and I'm like, this actually makes sense. I can actually structuralize, cement this in my process next time, and then it just gets
Right.
better
Yeah.
and better. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great. I'll definitely look into teaching after like 5, 6 years later, probably.
Definitely
Yeah.
give back. You always, you want to give back, right? Because
Yeah.
our
Definitely.
knowledge is not our, this is not our knowledge. Our knowledge doesn't belong to us.
Yeah. Definitely.
Everything, everything we do, everything I do, I didn't make it up. I didn't create it. These
Yeah.
are
Exactly.
knowledge passed down through hundreds of years through many
Yeah.
different great artists.
Yeah. Definitely.
So
That makes sense.
you want to pass it down, give
Yeah.
back.
Definitely.
Right?
So, how was your experience selling art through galleries and everything?
So I'm not with a gallery anymore. I used
Right.
to be. I used to sell through galleries. I feel like, I mean, I don't want to like say too much about like galleries, just because they are still important. I feel like, especially if you're
Right. Yeah.
making important works or works that you want to be showcased, right? But at
Right.
least in my personal experience, and this is like my personal situation, I feel like just, I feel like I'm already being able to get eyes on my work without having galleries to rely on, right?
Yeah. Right.
Through online, through social media.
Yeah. Now here you have like very big Instagram
Mhm.
following and stuff.
I mean, it's not too big, but it's okay. It's like a okay number where, I get good enough eyes on it.
Right.
So it's, like, because like galleries before, like, they had a huge role, because before social media, there was no way
Right.
for you to get your art in front of
Yeah. That
people
makes
who
sense.
would be interested eyes,
Definitely.
right? But now with social media, it's changing. It's like there's a constant shift within the
Right.
system,
Definitely.
so it's still important though. Still, like, people who are in galleries or people who want to get into galleries, definitely, I recommend, still trying. But at least for me, I'm not thinking of being in a gallery anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also heard like most galleries take at least 50% of your profit. Is
40
that
to
true?
50. 40 to
Right.
50,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's a lot.
Mhm. 40 to 50. I mean, yeah, I get it, because it does take a lot to like market, sell your work, help
Right.
promote
Yeah.
you. Like, you're doing the work for you, basically. You're just
Yeah. Right.
doing the, but like I said, I mean, if you have the charisma, a lot of artists, they don't have that. Like, they don't know how to talk about themselves. They don't know how to market themselves. That's why galleries to them is especially important, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I think for me, it's because I know how to, like, I'm a little bit more comfortable with talking and a little bit more extroverted compared to most introverted artists.
Right.
I'm happy to talk to people. I'm happy to, like, you know, show people my stuff. So,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
So like, how long has it been since you've been selling online?
Um, I started selling online, honestly, like during the beginning. Well, like, I've been selling online here and there before, but
Yeah.
it really started becoming more of a thing at the beginning of the pandemic,
Right. Yeah.
because people were buying online. And before the pandemic, I mean, you were talking about my following count. I think before the pandemic, I only had like 2,000 followers, like
Oh,
not
wow.
that much. Yeah, because I wasn't really giving time to myself, to build my, you know,
Social
like to build
media.
my name up, build my social media,
Right.
build
Yeah.
my name up. I was so focused on teaching, I kind of like forgot to do that, or didn't really have time to do that. So
Right.
when the pandemic hit, it gave me a lot of time. I was able to post and paint every day, and the algorithm liked that. So more eyes started like getting on my work, and with more eyes, there's more opportunities for people who have money that will want to buy, right? So I think there
Right.
was like a period of time where I was doing a bunch of small paintings, um, and I think like it was like my plushie series. I was painting a bunch of plushies. Um,
Right.
and I think, yeah, I basically sold almost all the plushies paintings. Like all the
Oh,
plushie
wow.
paintings you see on my Instagram, I don't have any of them anymore. They're
Right.
all around the world. I actually, honestly, a lot of them are in Germany and France. actually.
Oh,
I
wow.
got a lot of buyers from there. And yeah, I think I sold maybe like close to 30 paintings over the course of just those few months. That was pretty
Oh,
cool.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yes. So how has your experience been selling online?
I've been I've been chasing a different endeavor right now. I've been more interested in painting, as you can see, or I was just showing you, like, I've been more interested in painting like pop culture characters just because it's
Right.
something I
Yeah.
always wanted to do, but I
Right.
never
Yeah.
brought myself to do because it's like no one in my circle really does that. And I
Yeah.
thought,
Those
oh,
paintings are amazing.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. They look
Um,
really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I always thought like, oh, I want to be taken seriously. Like, I'm afraid if I start painting stuff like this, people won't take me seriously. They'll be like, oh, wow, Kai, you're just doing like, why are you doing like deviant art, fan art? You know what I mean? But I figured, hey, like I try to make it so that my work, it's like, it's not really about the character. It's like, I want to try elevating the character with the fine art techniques that I've accumulated over the years, right? I
Right.
feel like
Yeah.
that's something not a lot of people really do when they're doing these kind of work. They're making it about the character, but for me, I'm making it about
Yeah.
the piece in general. So it's like even
Right.
if you
Yeah.
don't
That.
know the character, hopefully you'll still resonate with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So um yeah, so that's something I've been trying to chase. And I think I'm, probably gonna sell like prints of them at like comic conventions and stuff because I've been helping my
Yeah.
girlfriend do that too. And I was like, this is
Right.
really fun. I get to talk to people, so because I was helping her sell her prints. So
Right.
um, kind of want to like, dip into that action a little too myself. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Have you ever sold anything at like conventions?
No, 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 no. I've been only helping her at
Right.
selling her stuff. Yeah. I
Right.
haven't sold anything of mine yet. Just
Yeah.
still trying to build that portfolio. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. So nowadays you mostly sell paintings through your website and Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Usually, I mean, recently I've just been doing more commissions, but
Right.
and those are just like people just contact me on Instagram or on my website.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, Instagram and website, those are usually the places that people um, come ask me about stuff.
Right. Yeah. 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 I've been checking out your website and saw a lot of paintings which are like currently on sale.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Pretty much. So I guess that's it. I don't have anything else to ask.